Derby County have joined Wrexham and Trabzonspor in the hunt for Plymouth Argyle defender Maksym Talovierov. And is he a player who Derby County could sign? Now, obviously, Talovierov has played in the Championship at the back end of this season for Plymouth Argyle. He's made 13 appearances for them, 2 goals, 1 assist in just over 1,100 minutes. But is it a move that Derby County are going to make? That is the interesting question, and that's what we're going to look into in this video. Now, Talovierov is 24 years old, standing at 1.96 metres tall. Is a Ukrainian international footballer with collecting 7 caps so far in his career, and he's valued at around €3 million. Now, his contract at Plymouth doesn't expire until 2028, but ultimately, when it comes to relegation, you never know what clauses have been put in and what potential opportunities may arise for Talovierov this season. Now, if we look at Talovierov across the course of his career, he's played for Sparta Prague, he's played for Slovan Eurobak, he's played for Slavia Prague, he's also played for LASK, and obviously more recently at Plymouth. He's never made more than 67 appearances for one team, and that was at LASK, where he scored a goal and got 2 assists. He spent 13 games at Plymouth and only been there a few months, but across the course of his career, he's played mainly at centre-half, 126 appearances, 6 goals, 5 assists. When we look at his other positions, 26 appearances in defensive midfield, 1 assist, and 1 appearance at left-back. He's played in a range of different competitions. He's played in the Chance League, the Bundesliga, he's played in the Championship and the Conference League, as well as playing in the Europa League qualifiers, as well as, obviously, the Europa League. Now, across the course of his career, he's played 13,400 minutes with 189 appearances, 8 goals and 8 assists. And I'm not disappointed about this link. I don't necessarily think he's been the best player in the world for Plymouth Argyle, but I do know that he's one of the players that they're hoping to keep hold of heading into League One, because I do think he'll be sort of a key figure for them in that League One season. Now, a 6.86 rating, 934 minutes played, had some really good performances against the likes of Pompey, the likes of Preston, obviously against Luton Town, Cardiff City, and even in the defeat to Manchester City. And I'm not disappointed with this link. You'll probably know the other day I was disappointed with the link to Powdy O'Connor, but I'm not disappointed in this one. I just think that the clubs that we're facing up against, Trabzonspor and Wrexham, I think we're in different sort of stratospheres. Wrexham are going to need to spend money this season to stay in the division, maybe even push for a potential promotion push. Trabzonspor, obviously, one of the Turkish teams. Now, I think that for Derby County to make this deal work, it's going to cost a decent amount of money. It's not going to be a cheap one. I can't find anything to do with any sort of release clauses. And obviously, Plymouth only bought him a few months ago. And if he's keen to stay in the UK, I understand why Wrexham or Derby would be appealing. But obviously, he's going to want to play at the highest possible level. Now, if I can go and find how much Plymouth paid for him, it might open the door to what sort of conversation Derby County are going to have when it comes to payments for this player, because we've got to obviously think that Derby County haven't got a great deal amount of money. They paid €2.1 million according to FootMob for Talovierov from LASK, and I think Derby County could get him for that exact same fee, realistically. But are Derby County going to want to spend $2 million on a 24-year-old centre-half that's just been, that's just been relegated? There is the possibility. He's not been their worst player. He's probably been one of their better defenders. And I think that is what opens the door for this deal to even be in the conversation. And I think it's a good move. I think it's a smart move for Derby to bring in Talovierov. I think, obviously, if you look at his history, he's played a decent amount of games. He's very much a centre-back. He's tall, fits the set-piece mentality that Derby County have had recently. And if he wants to stay in the Championship, what better club to go to than Derby County? If you're not going to get one of those parachute clubs, or not going to get a Birmingham City, what club's better, in my opinion? Now, if the deal does go through, by the time the season starts, he will be aged 25. I'll try and find some clips of Talovierov to put in the video right now, but I'm not against it. I'm not against this one. I think this is a smart one. But ultimately, I think Derby County won't bring in this player. He might end up at Wrexham, maybe. He might end up at Trabzonspor. But can I see Derby spending $2 million on a centre-half this summer as it stands today? not really. And obviously Plymouth are going to want to get their money back at minimum before they even think about sort of letting him go, because they're going to have to find replacements, and they're going to lose some of their players this summer, because some of their players have been fairly decent this year, despite the fact of relegation, especially in recent weeks under their current manager, who is also someone who could be leaving. And I think that is what opens the door for this deal to happen. Now, obviously, when you look at Talovierov, you look at his history. He's an international player. Obviously, we brought in Langas, brought in Salverson, who are both sort of European, sort of from that sort of way of the world. And I think we've got some players who could help him settle in quite quickly. And obviously, with him spending the last few months at Plymouth, I certainly think it opens up the door for that conversation to be had about the settling period won't be major if you compare that to potentially going and getting someone from Germany or Norway again or something like that over the course of the next few weeks of this transfer window. Now, is Talovierov going to be the player that Derby County signed to fill some of their defensive problems? I'm not entirely sure. Is he an option who I'm not against? Absolutely. I think he's got a lot of quality. I just think that it's one of those where whatever happens with this deal, I think it might be sort of one of those where Derby County need investment if they want to make it happen. And if that investment doesn't come, I don't think it's a deal we're going to be able to do. And I think that's going to be the conversation with a lot of transfers this summer, is until we have any confirmation of investment, which we haven't had over the course of the off-season so far, I just don't think we're going to be spending a great ton of money. I do think that money is going to be available for Derby. I just don't think it's going to be a ton. Obviously, you've got the conversation that I'm going to have next week about Oscar Frulo, who's a player we chased in the summer. I think there's an article going around discussing the potential for him to come back, into talking points, which I don't think is obviously a problem. We know that there was a deal discussed early on last season, so it's certainly one which we sort of need to look out for, and it's one which I will discuss. So obviously, that's it for Talovierov, really. I'm not against the signing. I don't necessarily think it's a signing that's going to happen until we have confirmation of investment, but it's one of those deals which I think if Derby County do it, I think it'll be a smart deal. I don't think we're going to take the piss when it comes to spending money this summer, and I think Talovierov is one of those players who could come in for a reasonable fee, improve our defence, and help us push forward maybe towards a mid-table finish. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that one. It's going to be an interesting one. And if you have not done so already, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit the like button as well to help push this video to brand new audiences, and I'll catch you in my next video.